I am 70 days out from my half marathon in Houston, and I just planned my training, so I'm gonna talk you through that. A few things before we get started though. First off, it's not actually 70 days from the Houston half marathon. I'm just recording this and uploading it at a later date. The first day of this training cycle is from 70 days out though. Second, I'm training to race a half marathon as fast as I possibly can. So if you're new to running and you stumble across this video and you're training just to finish your first half marathon, this training plan is not for you. And third, I don't claim to be any sort of half marathon expert or anything, but this is just what I think will work for me, and this is what I want to try. All that being said, let's get into it. So the absolute first thing that I did when planning this training is lay out everything in a visual format so I could see everything week by week, and I wanted to place my goal competitions, which obviously my main goal competition is the Houston Half Marathon on January 14th, the very end of these 10 weeks. And then there's an intermediate indoor 5K race exactly halfway in. So in addition to plotting the two races, I also planned out a weekly mileage progression, which is not set in stone by any means, but it's just something to shoot for each week. I've experimented with mileage a lot, and I've found my sweet spot to be somewhere between 90 and 95, so that's what I'm building up to for my peak. I've been up as high as 120 miles per week, and I've hit around 110, give or take a few, for a handful of weeks, but I just find that wears me down too much and I can't compete well when it counts if I'm running that much. So like I said, 90 to 95 miles per week is kind of my sweet spot, and I can train well and compete well when I'm running that much. So the first thing that I had to think about when planning the actual training is, what do I want the priority of my training to be? For me, that was without a doubt the long run. But this isn't just going to be any long run. A lot of them are going to be moderate paced long runs. So let me give you my definition of moderate. If we were to quantify things, I would say moderate is roughly 40 seconds per mile slower than your lactate threshold pace. If we're talking about how moderate pace should feel, it's kind of that line where you're going pretty quick, but you feel in total control of your running. You could go faster pretty easily if you wanted to, but doing it for the course of 16 miles or so will be pretty tough. This is a very fine line because I find that if you go too fast on your long runs, the negative side effects will outweigh the positives of going faster for that long run. It'll take a little longer to recover from, and it'll take away from your next few days of training. So there's not really any science to where I'm placing these long runs, but I'm mainly just doing one per week, and I'm thinking about more big picture of where I'll be at certain times and making sure I pick a day where the long run will work. For example, I know I'll be at home at my parents' house for a little bit during Thanksgiving break, during Christmas break. I know next weekend I'll be in Evansville, Indiana for the D2 Cross Country Nationals. Shout out to my Pitt State ladies for qualifying. I'm sure some of you nerds are watching this. There is one other long run that got kind of a special placement, and that is the 18 miler in week 8. For this long run, I'm planning on doing a hilly 6-mile route 3 times, and there's going to be a flat mile on it where I'll attack that mile a little more. So with the nature of that run being pretty difficult and only being 2 weeks out from the half marathon, I just moved that up a day or two to allow for a little bit of extra recovery. So if you're the type of runner that responds really well to aerobic type training, I think these long runs at a moderate pace are the absolute best thing you can do in your training. These will help you improve your race times from 1500 meters and up. I am definitely that type of runner, so that's why this is my priority. So my second priority each week is some kind of a lactate threshold run or repeats, or maybe an interval workout. Other than the 4 times 2 miles, I'm kind of staying away from the super long lactate threshold workouts because they kind of blend together with the moderate long runs a little bit. And I think that would just be exhausting doing an 8 to 10 mile threshold workout combined with a moderate long run later in the week. So that's why I decided to tone those back a little bit from what I normally would do. For the few interval workouts on there, those are more designed to help the VO2 max, and they'll all mostly be around 5K pace. So the rest of the training is really about filling in all the gaps with some other things that are not very difficult, but definitely still useful. So the next thing I added was hill work, which usually consists of something like 6 times 50 meters high knees, 6 times 50 meters bounding, and 4 times 100 meter stride or sprint. All of it is uphill. This kind of serves as a form of resistance training as well as a good way to work on mechanics. So similar to the hills, the next thing I added were easy speed workouts, which is usually something like 8x200 or 8x300 with 2 minutes rest, and they're usually completed at around mile race pace. In totality, these workouts as well as the hill workouts should be easy enough to where you could do a workout the next day, which as you can see, quite often I have a moderate long run the next day. The purpose of these easy speed workouts is more for neuromuscular benefit and just so that your body does not forget what it feels like to run fast. So there are just a few places left now that I feel like I should make the training a little more dense. So in these places I just added a moderate run, which again is just at that moderate pace, and it may be a little bit longer than a normal run, but not quite the distance of a long run. So the last thing that I'm adding to this training schedule are rest days. And as you can see, I have one in each of the first 3 weeks because I think that's important while I'm building my training and getting accustomed to it. And then I also put one 2 weeks out from the half marathon. So every other day on this schedule that is not highlighted is either just a recovery day, if it's the day after a hard workout, or it could just be a regular aerobic development run. I'll plan the mileage of all those runs week by week just to get close to my weekly mileage target. So that's what I've got planned for my 10 weeks of training leading up to the Houston Half Marathon. I'm gonna need to stay super flexible because you never know what winter weather can do to your training environment, and you never know if you can get sick or anything. So I like having everything planned way out in advance, but you still have to be willing to be flexible. Some of you might be thinking, you're training for a half marathon, why are you doing speed work? Why are you doing 5K work? Well, I think all aspects of training are important as a distance runner. You just need to adjust your priorities and your volume of each based on your goal race distance and how well you respond to certain types of training. So I think that everything I put into my training plan has a purpose and it's important to me, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. So I think I'll call it good for this video. Hopefully I'll be able to make some different workout videos through these next 10 weeks. I know I haven't uploaded too frequently over the past few months, but that's because I've been really busy with coaching and that is definitely my priority. I'm still trying to do what I can with my YouTube channel though, so hopefully it won't be too terribly long before my next video.